There's so many choices. I need your help. Hey, I'm Josh, and you're watching Days of Pain and Victory. This is another episode of bench racing. You know, one of the main points of bench racing is discussing your projects and coming up with ideas and, just like using your imagination. How can I build my Jeep? I've got some choices to make. Let's go check this thing out. This motor here is a greasy mess. And it is super underpowered. I don't know if you saw my fuel pump video, but in that I discovered this thing only has about 175 horsepower when it was brand new. So it does not feel like a V8. The AMC motors definitely have potential. People build them up to be pretty high powered. They're a good motor, but mine is a greasy mess. Look at how freaking nasty it is, and all that stuff leaks onto the exhaust, onto the drive line, which then spits it everywhere. My transmission leaks. The other thing is this BorgWarner transfer case gives me fits almost every time I go out and wheel. So this thing needs to go. All that burning oil, all the exhaust fumes come right into the cab and make it smell really bad, and I know it's unhealthy, especially for my kiddos. Alright, so here's the issue with the transfer case. It only mates up to the AMC Turbo 400. Because the AMC Turbo 400 has this weird long output shaft with the 10 spline. So this output shaft will not mate up to any other transfer case except for the BorgWarner 1339. This here is a GM Turbo 400, which has the output shaft that will connect to an MP203, but it only mates up to, Chevy motors. So this will not bolt up to the AMC 360. So I could rebuild this AMC Turbo 400, put the output shaft from this GM Turbo 400 so I can run a different transfer case. That's a lot of work. Small block Chevys are a dime a dozen, and that will bolt up to this just the way it sets. So, do I swap in Chevy motor into my Jeep? Kind of like the idea of the AMC motor because it's, it's what Jeep ran and for so long, and I'm a Jeep guy, but they're expensive to build. All the parts are weird, and it's just a lot more work. Like, rebuild that with this output shaft so I can run that transfer case behind this motor that needs a lot of work. Or do I find small block Chevy and just run a GM Turbo 400. Already mates to a 203, which is the front half of a doubler when I eventually go that route. And I would dare to say that this 203 is probably better than the BorgWarner. I can get a mile marker part-time kit for like 60 bucks to convert this full-time case to a part-time case. Kind of what I had to do with the BorgWarner 1339 anyway. The other thing I could do is pull out the AMC 360 and do a Krylon overhaul on it. Just replace all the gaskets and seals and whatnot. Try to freshen it up a little bit so it doesn't leak oil everywhere. A rebuild kit for the Turbo 400 is only about 170 bucks, and I'm sure I've got 100 bucks in tools out to buy because it does take some special tools to rebuild a transmission. But doing that, I could have a transmission that doesn't leak everywhere and then run this case for now. But all that's a lot of work. I'll pretty much be committing to not wheeling until wintertime again. But I can't take the kids out wheeling with this anyway, with the fumes that get inside the cab from all these oil leaks. It's just not good for my kids. So what do I do? What do I do? I also had another thought. I'd really like to LS swap my Impala. So I could source an LS for this guy, but this motor in front of the GM transmission, this motor is at least 310 horse with the Edelbrock package. I could put some better heads on it and maybe bump it up to 3 1/4, 330, which would really wake this thing up. It needs some cleanup too. It definitely, it's greasy, but I know what's inside this motor because my dad and I went through it, and it would bolt up to this transmission. All right, guys. So what do? Freshen up the AMC motor, rebuild the AMC Turbo 400 with the parts I need to swap in the right transfer case. Find a small block Chevy to replace the AMC and run all GM drivetrain. LS swap the Impala and use that Edelbrock 350 motor in the Jeep with my other GM drivetrain parts. Anyway, I've got some choices to make. Hopefully you guys can help me out. Put your comments down below on what would be the best wheel and motor for that Jeep. And keep it budget conscious. You know, I don't have $5 grand to dump in this thing. I don't have $1,000 to dump in this thing. Budget's probably more like 800 total, because got some other projects in the works that got to shuffle some funds to. So 800 bucks. What should I do? Leave your comments down below. Love to hear what you guys got to say. Like always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.